The goblin laughs out loud while hearing what I had to say about him. I like this one, Goblin says. He speaks exactly what's on his mind without making any effort to sugarcoat his words. To answer your question, Barry, Luna says, I do not trust him at all, and he does not trust me either. However, we are both smart enough to know that neither of us would benefit from betraying each other. The information he provides me with regarding to other monster races' activities is invaluable, and in return, I've been helping him from time to time by ridding him of some of his enemies, or by joining him in covert missions such as this one. And what exactly is this covert mission that you're talking about, I say? The Minotaur being held here in these tunnels, the Goblin says. They call him the undefeated champion of the arena. You're supposed to be fighting him in the second round, provided you survive the first one. I want to make him an offer. What offer, I ask? I offer him his freedom if he agrees to join my goblin camp and to be part of my army. The Goblin says, You have an army? I ask him confused. I thought you were just some random goblin that was acting as Luna's informant. The Goblin laughs again. There really isn't any limit to your bluntness, disrespect, is there? The Goblin asks. The goblin you are talking to is a Furon, and general of all free people, Luna says in a bored tone. He's at the top of the hierarchy of all goblins of Wraithia, and not under Tyrath's rule. Tyrath, I ask? You mean the dragon that I fought on my second day here? The one and only, Iluna says. I'm intrigued, Phylon says as he strokes the chin. He looks at me. I can't say that I've heard of many beings that fought Tyrath and lived to tell the tale. I exactly managed to escape his wrath. Who said I escaped? The ones who fought Tyrath before sounds like a bunch of weakling. I seriously look like I need to run away from the likes of Tyrath. Who said that I escaped? So you managed to persuade him to let you go then, the Goblin General says. Or are you going to tell me that you defeated him all by yourself? Not by myself, Iluna says. We had help from a certain Stillwater that I believe you are well acquainted with. Are you talking about Aiden? Fyron asks. Yes, Luna says. Aiden seems to have taken an odd interest in Barry and his group for whatever reason. You heard that the Stillwater appeared out of nowhere in the middle of their battle with the dragon, and he powered up Barry's stat device in a way that allowed him to cast spells. This is the reason why Barry was able to fight Tyrath on equal terms. What you are telling me should be impossible, Goblin General says. Unless the item itself is the one casting the spells, a Lesethi should not be able to use magic by any means because of the complete lack of magic in their aura. I did hear the Lesethi of old experimented with adding magical stats to the devices a long time ago, but I'm quite certain that they never managed to make it work. In order for someone to be able to cast spells by using those stats, they would need to have both the low magical frequency in their aura that is specific to Lesethi and the potential to cast magic. There practically need to be both a Lesethi, and the Goblin stops talking suddenly and looks as if he had just made a shocking realization. Seeing the look on his face, Araka starts to laugh from within her amulet. Oh, Araka is here as well. You finally figured it out, eh? Araka says. You knew? Fyron asks her. I figured it out a while ago after he started casting spells left and right against a bunch of skeletons, Araka says, but I thought he was a regular Lesethi too at first. Aiden is probably the only one who knew it from the start, so that's why he's taken an interest in him, Fyron says. What are you two talking about, I say. Now saying that you're a half Lesethi, Luna says, a half human and half Lesethi to be more exact. How did we not know this already? Didn't we already learn about this like at the start of book 2? I mean, this isn't supposed to be shocking. I'm sure we were told at some point that we are a half Lesethi, so it already made sense that since you're a half Lesethi, that would mean we're a half human and half Lesethi. What's exactly fascinating about that? When hearing Luna's words, Layla suddenly turns her head towards me and she watches me attentively. That is the first time I've seen her react in any way since the beginning of our conversation. And half Lesethi, you say, I tell Luna. It's the only possible explanation, Fyron says. I don't know of any other races that look the way you do. As long as you are also half human, your use of magical stat makes sense. To be honest, I don't really care either way, I say. Being a half Lesethi doesn't really make much of a difference to me. Besides, I have absolutely no idea how I'm supposed to use those magic stats that you're talking about so far. So far is separate. I've only been able to use them for a very short period of time, only after gaining access to a huge amount of energy. That's not exactly ideal. There is a way to unlock those stats permanently, Fyron says. However, doing so would require a code that is likely only known by a handful of Lesethi in the top brass of their organization. I wouldn't realistically expect you to get use out of those stats anytime soon. So I say, it's not that I'm not enjoying our conversation and everything, but shouldn't we maybe get moving before the trolls send more reinforcements our way? Would they send any reinforcement? I already took care of all of their scouts. He then gestured towards all the dead trolls lying on the ground around him. Nobody else should know that we're here, Fyron continues. Speaking of the trolls, Araka says, are you guys going to hide these bodies anytime soon, or are you planning on hanging them in the decoration? Not that I'm against either of those ideas, of course. Can you just wake up Flower and have her incinerate the troll corpses, I ask? I mean, wouldn't that just make a whole lot of like smoke or something? I'd rather not wake up Flower unless it's absolutely necessary. Luna says stealth missions were never exactly her specialty. She doesn't really get along with Fyron all that well either. No need to worry, Fyron says, I've got everything covered. The goblin then smacks his staff into the ground and all of the troll corpses get engulfed in flame at the same time. After a few seconds the flame disappears and the dead bodies are replaced by ashes. Shall we proceed? The goblin says. Arka, are there any enemies in our way? Luna says, nah. Arka says, you have already killed most of the guards from the area. And no one is hiding invisibly? Iluna says, no one. Araka says, excuse me. Layla rises. She looks at Iluna. Did you just say that the banshee from the amulet is named Araka? I did, Iluna says. You heard of her? I've heard a few things, yes, Layla rises. What exactly have you heard about her? Did you hear that she'll grant you 3 wishes if you spin her by the chain? You hear that she gets sick if you spin her by the chain? Let me show you. Now I don't want to fuck around with her too much, to be honest. Really, this one is funny actually. Did you hear that she'll grant you 3 wishes if you spin her by the chain? Did you hear that she'll grant you 3 wishes if you spin her by the chain? No, Layla right. The story I've heard that her didn't really make her out to be a particular benevolent spirit. Who the hell are you talking to? Have you both gone insane? We're talking to Layla, I say. Who the hell is Layla? Araka says. The Lasethi girl, Iluna says. She's been communicating with us through written messages floating in the air in front of us. Oh, because she can't see the writing? I always thought she could look outside the amulet, like physically look outside. Okay. So that's what she's been doing. Araka says, can't you see the writing? I ask her. No, I can't see anything from inside here. Are you stupid? Araka says, I have no eyes. I can make out most things with my magical sense, so I don't really need my eyesight for anything important. But to me, the girl's drawings in the air were just magical particles flowing around at random. But now that I know that they're supposed to be, I might be able to make a little more sense of them. Are you sure it's safe to carry her around like this? Layla writes, looking concerned. Don't worry, she's not that tough, I say. Hell, I fought her with a dagger while she was in the best condition and she still couldn't kill me. You really like to play with fire, don't you, Barry boy? Araka says, as long as she stays in that amulet, she's not a threat to us. Luna says to Layla, come on, let's get going. We'll be standing in one place for long enough. I don't know why is our character so like always trying to fuck with her all that much with Araka, because I personally always tend to avoid getting into too much of a confrontation with her. So I don't know why this character on his own starts to go after Araka, but you know, illusion of a choice. Anyway, where were we? Don't worry, yeah, bullshit. She pauses. As long as, yeah. Before that, she says, I'm going to cast a few healing spells. Most of your wounds seem to be older than 1 day, and they're not severe, so I should have no trouble healing them completely. Barry, I have no idea if the blood on your clothes comes from your wounds or from trolls I killed earlier, but if you need healing, I'll tend to you afterwards. Thank you. Layla writes, as Luna begins to cast her healing spells. After Luna is done with the healing, the Goblin General takes the lead, and he guides us through an empty tunnel on the opposite side of the tunnel we came in from. This is quite an interesting method of communicating you're using, young girl, Fyron says. Judging by the way the magical particles are forming in the air, I would venture a guess that you're using some kind of modified version of a stat booster to transfer your messages. Am I correct? Layla does not answer the goblin immediately. She takes a few moments to look him in the eyes before she writes her response. I see that you're very knowledgeable when it comes to magical devices, Layla writes. I fiddle around with a few artifacts and devices, including my staff, yes, Fyron says, but nothing as complex as your translator. I must have taken a very thorough understanding of the ins and outs of mind-reading magic and years of hard work to make something this sophisticated. Whoever worked on your device must have been very talented. He is, Layla writes with a solemn look on her face. So I say, why are we looking to invite the Minotaur into your army? Are you planning to go to war against the dragon? How intriguing, the Goblin General says. You have absolutely nothing to gain from this information. You're casually asking me to divulge to you some of my most important military secrets without offering me anything in return. I know that you're not a spy, because no spy would be stupid enough to ask me something like this directly. So what is the reason behind the question, I wonder? I mean, it's intriguing. I believe this is what humans like to call small talk. Iluna says in her unusual, indifferent tone, empty words with the sole purpose of engaging in a conversation for no reason in particular. Barry is just particularly bad at being discreet, so he never stopped to think whether this question was appropriate or not for this situation.